Welcome to Ask Gwen. Today I have Elizabeth with me, so I'm going to let Miss Elizabeth share her story with you guys. So, welcome, Elizabeth.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. Now, Elizabeth, tell my fan base more about what you do.
Well, I'm a marketer and I help small businesses and nonprofits to create a year's worth a year's worth of marketing in 5 days. So it's a lot of work, but it goes by really fast and then you don't have to worry about it for a whole year.
How cool is that? So, why did you start this journey of helping entrepreneurs and nonprofits create content for about a year?
Well, I was actually running 2 businesses myself a few years ago, and I couldn't keep up with everything, and I had to figure out a way so that I could, and then I could still market myself and basically be in 2 places at once, I could or more than 2 places. I could be on social media, I could be on blogs, I could be on my website, I could be out networking and having conversations with people on Zoom, and so I was basically trying to do all those things at once, and what I was finding was that I didn't have time to do all of that, and so some things always fell by the wayside, and the things that usually fell by the wayside, I ended up automating, and I figured out this little formula, and it started to work. So once I figured it out for myself and people started to recognize it and see it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, teach me how to do this for my business," and that's kind of how it turned into what it is today.
I love it. I love it. So you were doing a need for yourself and it turned into a business.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's similar to my story. I was I published a book and that book happens to be 10 years old now. And
Wow.
And so I published a book. Well, I thought, how the heck am I going to market this book? And then I thought, okay, podcasting. So I tried different avenues of podcasting and then tried YouTube and then tried everything else. And now, since the pandemic, since March, I've been doing this full time. And do you know I have content up until May of 2021?
Yeah, that is so great. I totally believe in that type of work because it just makes so much more sense to when you have the time, when you have the ability, to actually make all that content. Because sometimes you don't have the time for that, to do it, and then you have this like little cushion that you can sit back on if other things, kind of get in the way.
Yeah, like a move.
Yeah.
Move, like move, house. Yeah. And I didn't think, and I have trained, I'm lucky enough to have my best friend in the whole wide world help me, and she also has CP. So I have trained her how to work my podcasting system. So all I have to do is record the interview, hand it to her, and then she uploads it. And so it's wonderful that we have all this content out so that you guys that are listening never miss a beat and you guys think, oh, when is recording content? No, when it's not. When life pops up and then just happens to have the time to do it now and, um, had the time previously too, and so that's how I roll, and I was shocked. I thought we had content up until April of 2021. I'm like, "Okay, now we have content to the end of May, the beginning of June, and it's starting to look like the beginning of June. So May of um June of 2021. So when you basically all I'm saying guys, if you have the capabilities to batch record like I do, do it, do it, do it, do it. Because whether you have kids, whether you have dogs, whether you are trying to deal with the craziness of a pandemic, you need to batch record. So when you can't be in behind the mic or in front of the mic or behind social media, you can have a cushion to a nice comfy pillow of podcasting in my case to lay on and not worry about it because my fan base has gotten so used to me. They're like, if wind falls off the planet, they're like, where's the wind? Where's my podcast? So I
Yeah.
that's why I do batch recording as much as I can. So yes, so that's how I landed up doing it. And Elizabeth, you have I probably took a page from your songbook to do it
Yeah.
the way that we should be doing it. Batch recorded and then put it out when it's ready to be put out, and then we have content out for the majority of the year.
Yeah, and it just makes it so much easier because, it doesn't have to be super fancy content sometimes. And a lot of times I find that we have the content actually right in front of us and we don't even realize it. So even if you're not, looking to record new stuff, or if you're thinking, okay, what can I pull from things that have already happened and share that with people. I run into photographers all the time. That's one of my favorite people to work with because they always are taking photos. I mean, constantly, right? They do it for fun, they do it for their work, and so what happens is they'll have so many shoots in a row and they might post one or two of them and then they don't post the rest. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just because they don't have time. And what I've found is even posting pictures they took a year ago, 2 years ago, it doesn't matter because it's still a photo they took. It still represents their work. It still shows that they have a, great eye, and it just gives you that sense that, wow, they know what they're doing. So it doesn't have to be something where you're, like putting new content out all the time. You can actually go back and say, hey, I've got some of this content that I haven't put out yet. How can I utilize that and actually, have it make a difference in my life in the future?
And because of podcasting, people can listen to podcasts anytime they want. As long as you keep the feed up and running, people can listen to podcasts anytime they want. So new people may stumble across your old, according to you, content, and then they think it's the best thing, so I spread because it's new to them.
That is so true. And you have new people coming in all the time. So the stuff you posted in January, nobody sees that in June. There's new people that came in April and they don't even know about it. So if you post something in January and then you post it again in June, it's going to serve your audience because also the people that saw it in January, they're going to forget. So you might as well just post it again.
Yeah, I mean, because podcasting is so new and up and coming, we have we as content creators have the advantage of podcasters, people stumbling across my work um any day of the week, any hour of the day, any time of the day. And so I don't care if I recorded I don't care if I recorded it in January and they stumble across it in June, or I don't care if I recorded in April and they stumble across it in June. They may be stumbling across this after the pandemic, but a lot of people are stumbling across my work during the pandemic because I try not to mention the pandemic word and they just need hope. But with content, you never know who's going to stumble across your work.
Yeah, and like you said, you never know when either. And so I think that content, as much as it can be especially if you're creating things that are for the future, make them as evergreen as possible. And the evergreen word means literally like a tree that's an evergreen tree. It's that tree that's green all year round. It doesn't lose its leaves and anything like that. So that's what we want to make sure our content is like when we're creating lots of content for the future. And I have a lot of people tell me, how could you possibly do that? And, how could you create, all your blogs for the year or all your emails for the year? And it really comes down to knowing your own business and knowing your audience. And, as long as you know who your audience is and you're really speaking to, I would say, kind of that person, because we have an audience, right? We know that there's probably a lot of people in that audience and they have a lot of different characteristics and degrees of understanding or whatnot. But what we also want to do is find that middle of that, right? Find that middle person that really is that majority and say, this is most of my audience. Yeah, I got a few over here and a few on the edge over there, but really, this is kind of my core. These are my people. And you can really focus on speaking to that person and really single it out as a person, that there are lots of that type of person in your group, and really focus on speaking to them in a way that they understand, because sometimes I talk too technically and people don't get it. And I'm like, okay, wait, let me rephrase that. And then other times you might have a really technical audience and they might like say, you know what, you're talking too simple, I need you to be more technical, I need to understand really the deep information about this. And so then you might want to speak more technically. So you really need to know who that audience is so you can speak to them really directly. And then they will totally understand what you're saying and they will want more of it. And they will bring other people to whatever you're sharing, whether it's your social media or your podcast or blog. And they will say, okay, you have to see this person, you have to listen to what they're saying because they have really great ideas or whatever. And so they're going to help grow your audience for you, but they won't do that if they don't feel that connection. And so, even though we're making a lot of content at once and we're kind of becoming a little bit of a content factory for a little while, right? Just for a year, if we become that content factory at the beginning of the year, just to get all that stuff and give ourselves that cushion, again, we have to make sure we're speaking to them in a certain way. And we have to make sure that we are giving them what they need too. So they're not only feeling that connection, but they're also getting everything they need from it. And we're not overwhelming them with information. I tend to do that with people and it gets me in trouble all the time. I'm like, oh, you need to know this and you need to know that. So definitely making sure that we're kind of checking ourselves a little bit and making sure that we're actually giving them what they need, not necessarily what we think that they should have.
And my audience is solo entrepreneurs and people that want to be educated about disabilities and diverse cultures, and more about disabilities than diverse cultures. But they are so fascinated by my story and by my own story that they'll follow me everywhere. It's like me, I had a little lamb, she had a bunch of sheep following her everywhere, and I'm like, "Okay, guys, stop!" Because I love it. I love it, but it's like every time I publish a new podcast, every time I publish a book, every time I do something, they tend to follow me because it's me and I'm educated by story, e educating through my story, and it's so funny because I've told, other podcast hosts that I have dealt with over the years that I tend to break podcast feeds. And they're like, "What? You tend to break podcast feeds?" And I'm like, "Watch it when my episode comes out. I'll be sharing it. I'll share one audiogram and it will spike. It will spike your podcast feed." And they're like, "Thank you very much, When," because people want to be educated. People
Yeah.
want to be educated, especially during of the time that we're sitting now. People want to be educated and people want to learn.
They do. They do. And that's something that I think all of us have the ability to do. We all have a story. And I heard from someone one time that you're the expert of your own story. So that makes you an expert.
I like that.
And it was something that kind of stuck with me because, People sometimes people don't think that that they're an expert in something or that they have something worth sharing. Well, everybody talks about social media, so why is my, system or way or the way I talk about it different? Or everyone talks about, everybody builds websites or everybody's a marketer. So they kind of get lost in that. And I would say that we all have something that we're an expert in, and it is our own story, and we're the only ones who know it so well that we can retell it and we can utilize it to, like you said, bring hope and bring joy, or help someone through grief or sadness, or help them to see that there is light at the end of whatever tunnel that they're looking into. And I just want to encourage that, your audience, that you have that voice, you have something to say, and it's only you are the only one who can say it. No one else can say it for you. No one else can say it the way you say it, and share it the way you would share it. So even if there's 100 million marketers out there, like there are, because there's a ton of them, there's people that are waiting and looking for your story and your expertise. So don't hesitate to share that. And this is just a quick way of, like you said, kind of batching together some information, putting it all together, because I can sit down for myself and write out a ton of posts in really quick time because it's all in my head. I know all of it, and I can just put it all out there and say, okay, and now I can move on with getting to know people and building relationships and actually doing client work and working on, other pieces of marketing that cannot be batched. And so there's just pieces like that, things like that I want to really encourage people that, this may seem like a crazy dream, like, wow, yeah, a whole year of marketing in 5 days. Well, that sounds incredible, but probably impossible. Or only for you, you can do it, but not for me. But really, you have all the knowledge inside you and you have all the information that you need. And you just have to actually sit down and do it because you are the expert. I can't even do it for you. Only you can.
And so, Elizabeth, I have a question for you. What is your morning routine?
My morning routine, it varies, but typically I get up, I go to yoga, and sometimes I'll also go to swim. There's a swimming class I really like. And then I will come back, kind of get some food, get ready for my day. And then I will sit down and start in on start in on emails. That's kind of my first piece. And usually I'll have a podcast or something in the morning, and then I'll start working on some client work, have some lunch, and then it's afternoon by that point.
Yeah. And what is your favorite book?
Profit first. It saved my business. Oh my gosh. Several years ago, I read it, and I can't even tell you, it has saved my business. It has saved my personal finances. And it has made me realize that owning my business is one of the best things I could have ever done, because at one point I was living paycheck to paycheck in my business. And that's not really a business. That's just like a really horrible job that you have. And so when I read that book, and I started following the principles in that book for my finances, for my business, and in my personal life, I started realizing that I make a lot of money and I make plenty of it. And there's no need for me to always be broke. So it really helped me to see the value of what I do, to pay myself accordingly, and to know that my value is really important to this company that I run. And that, even though I'm the owner, that I still should be valued in that the way that I would value any employee.
And what is, I'm going to ask it this way. If your BFF had to write a book about you, what would the title be?
I actually am writing a book about myself. And I did pick out the title already. And it's going to be absolutely worth it, finding value after trauma. And takes me basically from, growing up, a little bit of growing up through my divorce at the age of 21 and losing everything, and then starting my business from there, and a little bit about how my business grew.
Well, let me know when that book comes out, because you are always welcome to come back on Ask Win, and we'll talk about the book.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I've had a lot of fun talking with you. And when your next book comes out, you'll have to tell me.
Oh, I will. And my last question as we wrap this interview up. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this before, but I want you to tell everyone where they can find your first book so that they can go and learn more about your story.
Oh, yes. People have asked me this, and as you guys know, I have 11 books out. I'm working on my 12th, my 13th, my 14th, and all in the midst of a move too. But my original book, which is 10 years old now, is I Come a Win, and it's out on Amazon. You guys can find it in audio. You guys can find it in paperback. You guys can find it in Kindle. And my 12th and 13th book and 14th book, I'm working on a book all about podcasting from my vantage point. So you guys can learn what I do in my trade secrets. I'm giving them away. And then, I'm also working on a book about me being emotionally and physically abused. And then I'm also working on a book that is self-help but it's going to be more about journalism. And so I have a deadline for that one. I have to get the manuscript prepared for that one at the before February of 2021. And so that is going to help me get on a deadline, and we'll see what
Yeah.
comes out to be like. But I'm really excited about that one. And so, yeah, that
My
is.
husband is he's an editor, and so I totally understand about the manuscript deadlines.
Oh, when and the person who I'm working with goes, okay, if you want this book out in June, which I do, um, you have to get it back to me by February. I'm like, February? What? Like, what? February? But that's okay. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. But right now I I'm in midst of selling my house slash moving, so that's gonna be a little
Yeah,
bit of a trick.
that's
Uh,
a lot, that's a lot, but I know you can do it. I have
yeah,
confidence.
my my fan base is cheering me on. My fan base is like, "Go woman, go."
Yeah.
Go, so and I
Oh, you're
I
fine.
apologize for the coughing attack. There we go. Getting my voice back in shape here. But what I was trying to say before the coughing attack was that my, my fan base is like go woman go in every sense of the word. And when I come out with new content, they are like amazed I'm doing the new content. And of course, when I get my move to where I'm going to move to, it's going to be even better content because I will have my own space to do it in.
Oh,
That's
that's cool.
the goal is to get my own space to do it in, and then
Yeah.
we'll we'll make more content, and we'll just have have more content for you guys. But all in all, I'm working on my books and I'm working on finishing up my journalism degree, and I'm also working on this podcast. So, creating content is my full time job, you guys. And where can people find you, Elizabeth? And where can people um, find you and get a hold of you if they choose to do so?
Yeah, they can find my website at getabsolutemarketing.com.
GetAbsoluteMarketing.com. And I appreciate you coming on. I know it's 9 a.m. your time on the East Coast because I looked where you were, and yes. And so I'm working on a secret project right now, you guys, which I can't say what it is yet, but I may be able to tell you guys when I get to the other end. Um, when I get to the midst of this move, I may be able to tell you guys what my secret project is. But right now it's a secret, and so you guys will have to wait and see. And for some of you, it's gonna be not a surprise to you guys. For others, it will be a surprise. But those of you that know me well enough know that I need to do something for myself, and it's something having to do for myself, and I'll leave it at that. And it's going to be a huge surprise, and I am hoping that the universe will make it happen. But I'll leave it at that. And thanks so much, Elizabeth, for coming on and sharing your secrets. And I presume you work with people internationally, or do you just work with people in the US?
I work with people all over, and yeah, so international. I've been spoken internationally. Um, I have some clients in Australia and England and Scotland and Canada, so all over the place. And I know we're all looking forward to hear what your secret project is too. So I'll
Yes,
stay tuned for
yes,
that.
yes. My my secret project is it just got in the works yesterday, but I'll let you guys know if it happens. If it happens, I'll be really excited about it. If it doesn't, it's not meant to happen, but I'm hoping that it will, and I'm hoping that you guys will support me on my secret project, and I'll just leave it at that because I'm the type that will let the cat out of the bag, and it's not gonna be very fair to those involved if I let the cat out of the bag without telling
Yeah.
behind the scenes. And so I'll just leave it at that, but I'll let you guys know if the secret project happens, and we'll see where it takes me. And yeah, we'll see where it takes me. And so I
Awesome.
will just let you guys know, but I appreciate you guys listening, and I appreciate you guys supporting this podcast. And let's support Elizabeth and what she's doing. And let's um, let's support all independent content creators, and Elizabeth will help and all independent content creators create their content and do it in a day so they have content for a year, and then that's Elizabeth's specialty, and so we'll see. And I appreciate you guys supporting, and I just hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Win. Thanks, you guys. Bye, you guys.